see.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of SuperCoach Tragics podcast. Here with me, Dan, coach of the Donkadonk. As per usual, I'm joined today by some great SuperCoach minds. To my left over here, we have Glenn Fisher. We had some footy on the weekend, mate. What do you think of the All-Stars game? Anything out of it?
Yeah, I did, mate. It was good. How are you, Dan, anyway? Yeah, there was a few things there in that All-Stars game I liked. I liked the forwards from Tarpany and James Fisher-Harris. I thought they looked really solid. Had a good game. I thought Cobbo showed a bit of promise. And I thought it was a bit hard to gauge, really, don't you think? With the rain, it made it a little difficult for some of the players we wanted to watch, like Hines, due to the fact that they were just so dominated in the forwards. But, yeah, it was a good game, mate. Oh, Herbert as well. I thought Herbert did really well.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. One thing that I really got out of that was I think Nick Hines, he's going to be a great player, and I'm probably going to own him at some point this season, but definitely not be starting with him. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you right there, Glenn?
Yep.
Also, so we've got Brod as well joining us this week again. The baby Broncos, mate, they had a go on the weekend. How do you think that go? The future's looking pretty bright with Ezra there, mate.
54-4, mate. Doesn't matter who we play on. I'm taking that as a win. No, so, you know, I think Ezra has really shown what a talent he can be. Billy Walters has shown why he probably doesn't deserve the number 9. And a couple of those, you know, young forwards really like the look of. Really excited to see how we can mature in the next couple of years. So, good times ahead.
You know, I think having A-Ray there as well, he's going to be great in the future. Ezra, he's already got that quick little speed, and I think with A-Ray there, I think that might really help him grow in the future and be a great halfback. All right, and last but not least, on loan from SuperCoach 360, we have Timmy O. Timmy O, any players over the weekend that struck your fancy, mate?
Yeah, mate, I was really interested to see how Ezra Mann went as well, being a Broncos fan. They're trying to make sure that they don't make the Sam Walker and Reece Walsh mistake. They're going to hang on to this bloke. I can see him playing in the halves very, very quickly because, like I said, they're going to want to make sure that he doesn't leave the club. He's definitely the future of the club if he can get in there. He's just got to buy his time with A-Ray and hopefully learn as much from A-Ray as he possibly can.
Yeah, mate, looking forward to it, actually. It's going to be good. All right, guys, so we'll get started. So first thing I'll do is actually shout out a few mentions here. I'm going to start with a guy that doesn't get enough mentions on podcasts is Kane Anderson, Dr. Kando. I'm not sure if you guys know, but last year, Kando and also Adrianosaurus Rex put together the Turbo Hammies Cup, which brought the podcasters together. I'm not sure if you've noticed this year, he's ramped it up a notch. He's actually got seeded leagues now. He's got draft comps. He's got public leagues for everyone to join, which is fantastic. The amount of work he's doing currently behind the scenes is just crazy. I can't imagine what he's doing that I can't see. So thanks to actually test your skills against the podcasters. The code for the overall group is 104397. So jump in that, guys, and test your skills. All right, so first up, we're going to go for the second roll today, guys. And what I've got here, I'm going to go through a bit different than last week. Last week, I've discovered that I think we went on a bit long, and then the guys all identified that. So we're going to go through a different structure. I'm going to start with the guns that we should probably all aspire to getting to our team, at least by the end. And then we're going to move on to the value picks, which are very important. And then from there, we're going to look at the cheapies, and then my favourite afterwards, looking at the pods. All right, so I'll start with the guns. First of all, no surprises here, guys. I've got David Fafita at 745,200. He averaged 85 points per game last week. One stat that Glenn loves here is points per dollar, dollars per point 6,302, which is a quality, actually a pretty good price. That was from last year. And points per minute was 1.3 points per minute every game. I know that then towards the end of the year, he started getting less minutes, and usually that means the PPM goes up. But having a look back, his PPM has not changed from 80 minutes or 50 minutes. It's always been the same at the 1.4, 1.3 mark. A few numbers. He's currently in my team at the moment because there's a few numbers I look at here, and I just run off a few numbers. But the number that really scared me the most is, Fifita is that guy that you do not want to see in your opponent's team and not your own. He's really hard to watch. So the number that scared me the most to bring him in was his ownership, 28%. That's almost 1/3 of coaches that have him in there. I don't want to have a 1 in 3 chance of going head-to-head against a guy that I haven't got. So I brought him in straight away. Nothing much more to say on David Fifita there. I think it speaks for himself. And next we have Angus Crichton. So if you can't really quite afford David Fifita, I think the next step down is Angus Crichton, another gun who I actually see big things happening this year. Priced at $653,000, averaged 74.5 points per game last year, and just under a point a minute. So I think I believe that will go up this year, having Carey next to him. I think there's some really good things to come, and the side that they're looking a lot better this year, I feel like that's going to even go up even more. So I think I don't want to call him out right now, but Glenn just said he has a bold prediction where Angus may actually outscore Fifita by the end of the year, and it's a pretty scary looking one, but you know what, I wouldn't put it past him, frankly. He has a high ceiling as well. And Angus there is also owned another scary run by 19.6% of the team. So that's the two guns I've got that I believe are the no-brainers. A couple of special mentions, I'd say, is Isaiah Papali'i. We touched on him last week, so I won't talk too much about him there. And also Tavita Pangai. Both those guys, they're pretty much dual position, so you can throw them in the front row, put them in the second row. Great guys to have in your team as well. But like I said, we touched on them last week. So, Glenn, am I crazy for starting with both these guys in my team? Talk me out of it.
Well, I'll give you an interesting thing. I've never taken Angus out of any of my sides that I've created. I have taken Fifita out of a couple. Mate, Fifita's hands down the best second rower in the game, points per minute, and but points per dollar wise, he's quite costly. And the extra $300K that I can go down to someone like a Curran or a Maddo and use that coin elsewhere might be the difference in making points up in another position. So if Cleary starts the competition, there's a chance that David Fifita doesn't make my starting side.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I'm a bit scared at the moment. I think I'm a bit light in the halves right now, and I think I may have to sacrifice one of these guys to actually spread the dollars out elsewhere in my team. So next up, guys, we're going to talk about the value picks. These guys are actually quite important. For those that don't know, a value pick is pretty much the guy that we've identified as being either undervalued, underpriced due to the fact that maybe discounted last year from less games, maybe even a positional change or even a team change, and maybe 50 more minutes. So, Glenn, you've got a list there of all the value players you've identified there, mate. Will you go through that with us?
Right, I'll give you the list quickly, and then I'll go over the ones that I want to talk about. So I've written down Tino, Lolo, Capewell, Liam Martin, Cotter, Firma, Lukey, and Host. But the ones I'd really like to talk about, so Tino's one of the ones I don't mind, and the reason I like Tino is that I think that, well, I'll read out what I found here. So he averaged 56.3 minutes and he's priced at $4.93. His PPM 0.94 with an average of 56.3, an average of 60 minutes. But what I like about him is that he's second row, front row. If you're trying to short yourself a little bit in the front row from a Haas or even a Tavita Pangai Jr. to have money elsewhere, I don't think Tino's a bad shout. He's actually owned by 17% of other coaches, so I was quite surprised to see that stat today. So that's on Tino. I won't spend too much time on each one of them, as we identified we don't want to do. The other one I have is Lolo. Tamalolo, we all know what he's done in the past. Now, last season he had a couple of injuries, and we're all annoyed with how he's being used by the coach. But he's also being talked about as being played through the front row. And at $4.85, with an average of 55.4 and a PPM of 0.94, I think that Lolo would be a really good shout to have in second row, being able to move him up into front row, and also the fact that he is playing the first bye round. The one other stat I wanted to throw out at you was, so I went back a little bit with him, and sadly I haven't written this correctly, but he had an average of 61 minutes with a PPM of 1.8, and he was averaging 72. I think that's in 20 I've written there, and in 19. So his stats for 19 and 20 are much better. So I just think Lolo's a good shout at that price point. And the other one I wanted to talk about, I'm not going to talk about Martin or Cotter, Firma or Lukey, because a lot of pods are talking about them anyway, so we don't really need to repeat what other people are doing. But the last one I wanted to speak on was Host. He's 304K at 400, and this one's selection specific. He really needs to land that left edge spot for him to be relevant for me. But if by chance at that price point he does get that left edge outside of Walker, I'll be all over that. So they're my value picks, buddy.
Yeah, it's good what you say about Lolo there, because one of the things I was thinking the other day is I can see Lolo getting better this year, but I can't see him getting worse. So even though people are calling it maybe a risk, it's like there's not much of a risk really involved in that risk, because I don't see him getting worse than what he was last year. So I believe it's actually a very low risk, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to move on to Timmy. We're going to talk about cheapies over here. I struggled to find some decent cheapies in the second row, so I feel kind of sorry for Timmy over there. How'd you go, mate? Did you get any gold there?
Yeah, mate, yeah, you're exactly right. It was pretty tough when Glenn said you've got to find decent second rowers for under 300K, and I went crickets. It was pretty tough, but I have come up with a few, and hopefully this might steer some people in the right direction or give them something to think about anyway. Tepai Maroa is pretty popular at the moment. He's just come back to playing NRL. He's in with the Storm, 205K. Now, he's played a little bit of NRL, played a bit of Union, played here and there and everywhere. So he's been out of the game basically since his last serious season was 2018. Where he played 19 games for 893 SuperCoach points. Obviously, SuperCoach as a game has changed since then. However, across the season, averaged 47 points per game with a 62-minute average across the season for each game, and scored at roughly 0.75 per minute. At the moment, you've got to think he's in the starting side somewhere, in the second row, or certainly getting minutes in the middle somewhere as well. So at 205K, I think he's a lock and load. He's dual position, front row forward, second row forward. So it's pretty handy player too to switch between your second row and front row. If you've got someone like TPJ sitting there in one position or the other that you can flick around using someone like that. So he's almost like having a dual position nuff, but at least he's actually just about guaranteed to increase in price. And I think he's going to be pretty handy for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next one I've looked at also at the Storm is Jack Howarth. He's 175, 400, basement bottom dollar. Big raps on this kid. I've never seen him play myself. There's not a lot of footage out there of him playing either. But let's be honest, we all know Craig Bellamy. He doesn't make too many mistakes. He's very well known for picking up really good players. They've signed him for a 5-year deal at $500,000 a year. So they're already taking $500,000 a year out of their salary cap to play a 19-year-old kid. So if this guy's not the real deal, I will eat my own hat. So, so he's played Queensland under-18s with the Hammer, with the Coates, Sam Walker, Jake Simpkin. So he's a quality footballer, and he's been playing rep footy for a while. So I think he's got to be in their starting side there somewhere in the second row, or certainly he's got to be first cab off the rank early in the season for some minutes coming off the bench, and probably build further and further throughout the season.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Next one I've got is Isaac Targo. Again, a dual player. This one's second row forward, centre wing dual. Played 6 games last year for a 33 average, 37 minutes on average across the season was all he played at 0.88 per minute. 0.88 points per minute across the season. They just signed him again to a 3-year deal. Last season signed him for a 3-year deal. Finished at the end of 2023. So again, he's an up and comer. Panthers also don't make too many mistakes if they're signing someone for a decent deal. His first 5 games, he's got Manly at home, Dragons away, Knights at home, Souths at home, Dogs away. So a pretty juicy draw. The bloke's 184 centimetres tall, 93 kilos, so he is pretty big and makes me look like a tiny little midget, even more so than I already am. So, yeah, I think Isaac Targo's he's got to be odds on for that centre spot at the moment. Seems to be worth having a crack anyway. I've got him in my team. Actually, I've got all 3 of those, Moroa, Jack Howarth and Isaac Targo in my team at the moment.
Yeah, but the thing about Targo is a lot of misconception out there about potentially if you have a second row, dual centre wing, that you have to put him in the centre wing. But there's so many good value players out there that are in the centre wing. You can't get them all. So if you can move them up to the second row, you can actually get a lot more value there, which I think is a good idea.
Trying to point my pencil. He's up there on my bench at the moment in my second row.
I like that. Yeah, I think and a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people are going to be like, I want to get him in my centre wing, but don't get fooled by that because you can move him down later anyway if you really need to. But you want to get more value at the start. So I think I'm actually might be moving Targo up there for myself as well. So
I've got both Aiken and Targo up in my second row at the moment, both playing off the bench. My plan is in my centre wing to have the guys with higher ceilings that are fairly guaranteed. Well, I wouldn't say guaranteed, but certainly more chance of having a higher ceiling. Aiken, we don't know whether he's going to play in the centres or second row, but we know he plays really well. Certainly played last season, did really well for the Warriors, was a fairly high points per minute player. I think Targo is going to be very similar. So, yeah, I've got those guys up there as sort of staples in my cheap second row forwards, and then spend a bit more money down in my centre wing with guys with higher ceiling. Now, there's 3 more that I did look at. I've put these 3 guys together because they seem to be relatively high ownership for different reasons. Ethan Bullymore, I've got Andrew Davey and Ben Travoyevich, all from Manly. They all seem to be vying. The general consensus is for 1 spot. I think Bullymore, being an ex-Broncos man, ex-Broncos player, but being a Broncos man myself, I think he'll get time in the middle as well as quite possibly on an edge. He's at 280K, averaged 30, scores roughly at 1.21 per points per minute. That was across 18 games last year. Andrew Davey, 266, 500 in 2020. Averaged 38 points per game, averaged 40 minutes at 0.96 ppm. Ben Travoyevich, the problem with Burbo, I should say, he can become an AE nightmare. I know there was a lot of guys that had him late last season. He was a great centre wing, second row forward duel. Everyone had him there. And then when players started dropping off or were getting rested at the end of the season, he was coming on for 1 and 2 and 3 minutes, and that was it. So he takes the field, he gets you 1 point, you can't VC loop, you can't do anything, and he really hurt a lot of teams. Me, myself, I'd be staying away from Burbo. The way I've got them ranked myself is Bullymore 1, Davies 2, and Burbo 3.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with him, mate. I think a lot of people will jump on Burbo just because of the name, and that he might even get a bench spot. But like you said, I feel as though there's going to be a lot of... He might get more minutes than last year, but not good enough to warrant a decent AE. Again, he's going to be an AE nightmare no matter what, I think, unless there's some serious more injuries there. I think Burbo is definitely a void for my... All right. So finally, we're going to talk about some pods. So for those that don't know what a pod is, it's a low ownership player, usually around the 10% or lower mark. The reason why we get these pods, we try to identify pods that have a higher ceiling, so you can get that jump on the rest of the crowd. So, Brod, you got a list of pods in the second row, mate. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so we all know I love my pod. The only thing with pods is they're normally the ones that don't get the points when the big guys fire. But I'll start you off with a couple. So I got Luciano Leilua, so only owned by 1.5%. costing $539,000. He'll probably one that I'm looking at the trials if he plays outside Hastings. I really like him. We all know he can play 80 minutes and he has a knack of scoring those tries. Next off is one that I didn't really even think of until I started doing this and talked to Glenn. So it's Brendan Nakora. So again, only owned by 1.6%, and he's under the 500k mark, so only at 482. Next ones we've got on here is... Sorry, those ones are very low ownership percentages. So,
Rod, can I just ask, which side do you think Nakora is going to play off? Will he play off Hines or will he play off Trindle?
Yes, it's the same with Nakora and Luciano. It's where I want to. That's what I want to see those trials for. Glenn's better off with the positionals than I am. Do you have a thought, Glenn?
I don't think Trindle will start with. I think it'll be Moylan and Hines, but I'm hoping that Moylan's on the bench. I think Nakora will play on the right side. As to which half plays on that side, I'm not sure. Brooks played on the left side last season, and Hastings is a left side player. Luciano Leilua is a left side player. So, as you said, those trials might answer the question. I think Brooks will play right, Hastings will play left, and I think so. Hastings to Luciano sounds about right.
Yeah, I think after watching the trials, I did see Nico Hines, for example, he did float around a fair bit, go right and left, but I think I watched him favour the left side a lot more than the right side, so that's something to be careful of too. Yeah,
and I mean, next week when we're doing our other positions, at least we'll have a trial match weekend behind us, so that'll be good. So we've got William and kick out 3.2%. We all know what Kicks can do if he gets the minutes. Love scoring tries. Another one that is a really nice favour is Kulam Targi. Only owned by 3.4% at 530,000. Yeah, I can't say his name. It's all right.
I just want everyone to stop talking about him. Connor was going on about him, kept going last night, and I'm going, I just wanted to kick him and go, mate, just shush. That's why they call him a pod.
And then the last ones I've got is Carrigan's at 3.6% at 460,000. Obviously doesn't have the high ceiling the rest, but will score you 60 every week.
Yep.
And then Joe Tarpany, who Glenn mentioned at the start, had a cracking game. Only reason I don't like him is because he's playing for the Raiders, and who knows what he's going to get. But again, 4.7% at 480k. And the rest, I've got Josh Curran, 6.7% at 580. Ryan Madison, 7.3 at 570. And then Stilly, so only 8%, but on that Roosters pack, could score anything. So some really good players. Wyndon asked me to have a look at it. I probably actually hadn't looked at many of those in my team, but Luciano has now squeezed his way in depending on if he's outside Hastings, so he will be there next Monday if playing. Thanks again.
Man, I love hearing about pods, man. I could do a whole pod on pods. I love those low ownership players. This is probably why I don't do so good in overall, because I get too many of them and I screw up. So just make sure when you're out there, guys, get the right amount of pods and the right pods.
I just throw two in there. Sorry, mate. Can I just throw a couple in that I think that haven't been mentioned?
Yeah, of course, mate.
So one would be Luke Garner from the Tigers. I think I haven't written anything about him, but I would just have a look at his stats. I think that if he gets an 80-minute gig, especially with us losing Bloor and Simpkins having some problems with the law at the moment, it could see him getting an 80-minute gig. So if that happens, jump on. And the other one that no one's spoken about is Cameron Murray. Don't write him off either. I mean, there's a chance that he'll play through the middle and then move to an edge. So just watch to see how that plays out as well.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. One thing that I got out of that actually was who would have thought Madison at that price would be a pod? That is freakish. especially with news about Nathan Brown getting a bit of an injury. And there's obviously a bit of cloud of whether Matto starts or not. I think he should start, frankly. If he starts at that price, he should not be that lowly owned. What, 7% you said, Brod?
Yeah, he's down there, mate.
That's crazy. I think that'll shoot up.
Sorry, Dan. As we know, though, Matto's biggest problem is head knocks. The bloke is a fantastic footballer. I think he's amazing when he's on. And let's be honest, he's on more often than not. But the problem is he's one head knock away, sad to be said, that possibly retirement even. Like it's got to be. But we all know, those that have played Supercoach for the last few years, he's a kind of bloke now where he gets a head knock and the coach will say he's out for a week. And then he'll say next week, he's probably going to sit out for 2 or 3 weeks. And then 5 or 6 weeks later, you're still waiting for him to come back from a head knock. He's had a few now, and they are really concerned. And that's his biggest problem. He's a great player. He's great at Supercoach, scores points per minute. He's everything that you want. But the problem is, as soon as he gets a knock, and we know how often that happens in rugby league now, much more than what it did 5 or 6, 10 years ago, whatever, that he could be missing for a long period of time. Luke Carey is in the same boat. There's a lot of hype about Luke Carey. And I think he's in much the same boat. He's only one HIA away from missing a heck of a lot of football.
Oh, yeah, I do agree with you there. Yeah, I do agree with you there, but you got to also think as well, if you start basing your team on head knocks and fear of those head knocks, it does get a bit worrying. So, like, by that knowledge, you got to avoid Harry Grant. And I don't see anyone trying to avoid him. I know he's off the first game, but he's the guy I want to get in my team. I know he's a lot younger and everything, but concussion doesn't have an age. You know what I mean? So, I think at that price point with Madison, if he does unfortunately get an injury, I feel like there's plenty of options we've gone off today that you could trade down to. I think the upside there is, I think, worth the risk. So, I haven't got him in my team at the moment, but I'm probably going to shuffle a few things around now and do so. Maybe potentially for Angus, actually. So, and free up some cash to fix my halves. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it on the second rowers. Before we go, I'll make sure that I tell everyone about our overall group. So the code is 922904. Rod, can you tell us about what we can win with that group?
Yeah, so Supercoach Championship rings. Were nice enough to send me a ring for when I got home today. And then obviously $100 head-to-head in our cash comps. And talking about cash comps, they're filling up pretty fast, the head-to-heads. Once these ones are full, I won't be opening up anymore, and they'll only be overall after that. So if you do want to get onto the cash comp head-to-heads, I'll jump on there pretty quick.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. All right, guys, unless there's anything else, I think that will wrap it up for tonight. It was a great pod. Next week, we're going to be talking about halves, 5/8, and fullbacks. We're going to squeeze them all into one because I think there's pretty much very self-explanatory on who the guns and the value is there. So we're going to knock through that one a bit quicker as well. And then following that, we're going to go and look at our centre wing and spend the whole day on that centre wing. I think it's going to be a long one. All right, guys, thanks for catching up with us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks very much, mate. Can I just, if you boys don't mind, I'll just throw a quick shout-out to Supercoach 360 boys, obviously where I'm from this season. We actually released our webpage yesterday. So you can go to www.supercoach360.com. It's a full webpage now. There's about 8 to 10 contributors that are writing articles. Glenn's part of the team as well, doing some stuff with us as well. So, yeah, we launched the site yesterday. It's just the whole idea of it is just a one-stop shop for everything Supercoach related. We'll be looking at other formats and stuff later on in the season, but at the moment, obviously focusing solely on NRL. So, yeah, go and check it out. Supercoach360.com. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been writing for them, and they're really good. I was going to say the same thing. I was sort of putting my hand up to say.
I was trying to do that.
Yeah, I was a shout out as well because I've done a lot of writing for them, and they put up a post on our page today. So check it out, guys. Ross, Tim, myself, and a few others have been writing for them. Thanks anyway, Dano.
Yeah, thanks. Also, thanks for reminding me as well, guys. I would have felt pretty bad if I didn't say that. But also, for those that like to watch on YouTube, there's also search SuperCoach 360 on YouTube, and you'll see some great content on there, guys, from all the contributors on the web page as well. So that'd be great.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Until next week, we'll talk again. See you guys.
Stay safe and be good. Thanks, guys.